Hello and welcome to the Health Oddity Podcast, episode 152. We are really quickly approaching our 3rd year anniversary of doing the podcast, releasing a podcast every single Friday for nearly the last 3 years. And we are joined by a fantastic guest today who I will introduce you to in a minute. We are going to keep the preamble banter to a minimum today because we really want to spend as much time as we can with the guest today, and we're on a little bit of a time restriction, so we want to get straight into meet our guest. But before that, I will just introduce you to our usual hosts. Mr. Peter Lant in Bath, how are you doing?
I'm doing very well, thank you. There you go.
Good.
No banter.
Kept it brief.
Get into it. I'm excited about this, so I want to get into it. This will be great.
Yeah, excellent. No, yeah, you've seen our guest, but only from well, not too far away, but maybe from about 30 or 40 meters away, I think.
Yeah. Well, no, because we were
training order.
We was yeah. Well, she's got all the moves. Put it that way. I know that when she makes her entrance, it's fantastic. But also, she was sitting just down in.
Oh yes,
with Matt Bishop just down in front of us. But anyway.
Yes, excellent, excellent. Paul in London, how are you doing?
Work good, training good, family life good.
Nice.
So you keep it to a minimum, yeah?
Tick, 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 done. Right, move on.
Done, move on. Okay. Our guest today is Becca Roberts. So Becca is 2022-2023 UK Strongest Woman, 2021 World's Strongest Woman, loads of wins and competitions and things going back, I think, to about 2016, maybe that was the major one, but certainly from 2016 through to now, so sort of seven or so years of really high level competition in Strongwoman competition. Pete and I were at Nottingham Motor Point Arena in May for the UK Strongest Man and Strongest Woman, and we saw Becca win there, and absolutely brilliant over 3 days of events.
And we right down to the last barrel as well. It wasn't a barrel.
Last toss, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was amazing.
Yeah. And it was, and that was Lucy Underdown and Becca went, I think, into the final in joint points or very close. It was basically the one who won that last event was going to win, and it was absolutely nail biting and fantastic. So we are going to talk to Becca and find out all about her career in Strongwoman, her training, her lifestyle, how she got involved in it, and all the rest of it. So we're going to get started straight away. So Becca, how are you doing?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Very, very good, thank you. You're joining us from Wales, I think, today, aren't you?
No, I live in St Helens, but I'm originally from Wales.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So St Helens, okay, fantastic. And so what's life like being the UK's strongest woman? Well, first of all, let's just talk a little bit about what life is like today for you, and then maybe we can talk about how you got involved in training to begin with, and Strongwoman, and I know that there's a saying, isn't there, that kind of your struggles make you stronger, or what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. But reading lots of stuff about you and watching stuff about you, it seems that in your are you sort of 28, 29 at the moment, is that right?
Yeah, I'm 29.
Yeah, so in less than 30 years you seem to have had more struggles than most in a whole lifetime. So that's probably possibly why you are so strong. I don't know, but so what's life like for you at the moment? What is an average week for the UK's Strongest Woman?
God, well, it's busy. So I don't know how some of the strong women that have children do it, because I don't have any time for myself really in the week at all, because a lot of my time, like I work full time, I train 4 to 5 times a week, and those sessions can be 3 to 4 hours long. And then every week I get a physio session on one of my days off. So it only really leaves like 1 day a week where I can like go and see my family or go and see my friends or do other things. So it's quite a hectic lifestyle, and you've got to be quite selfish to compete at the level that I compete at, because training and physio and recovery and everything has to take priority over everything else.
I suppose really it is you've got a full-time job that you kind of you told us, but I mean the amount of training and the recovery and the you know the eating and the kind of the whole lifestyle, and you mentioned, just we'll talk about it in a bit I'm sure, but you mentioned sort of hot and cold therapy that you do at home, you know, and all this, it's almost like it is a full-time job, isn't it, being a strong woman at the level that you're at. So then to do that and have a full-time job as well, because I suppose, I mean, are there any strong women who can afford to do this as a full-time job and don't have another job that they do as well?
Not really at the moment, from like competition winnings kind of thing. Like the sport has improved a lot from when I first started, because my first competition was in 2016 and that was UK's Strongest Woman and I won that. And for winning that, I got a tub of out of date protein, like as my prize. It was just, it was a bit insane. But to where it is now, where there's a lot of prize money kind of coming in, and it's not enough to kind of justify being able to live on, even if like you won every single competition. But some strong women kind of supplement it by doing online coaching and stuff as well. So that's kind of how they manage to kind of do it more full time. It's something that I'm possibly going to be looking into doing as well, just with a small number of clients, just while I kind of work full time as well, just another little string to my bow.
And when you won the world's strongest woman, that was out in Florida, wasn't it? Was that out in like Daytona Beach or something in 2021? How was that experience of you know, how do you find competing internationally? Because I looked at all of your, you know, your kind of, I suppose, your competition history, and you have competed a lot in, like, you know, Finland and Norway and, you know, obviously all over the UK and in America. International competition and going over for the actual worlds, was that a huge event and a huge thing for you to do?
Yeah, it's massive and it takes a lot more planning competing abroad. You have to take a lot more luggage with you. You have to have a lot more planning, because obviously that you're not going to get the same kind of food and things that you are at home, or hotels in America, like to stay in a hotel, where are you going to get your food from that you know's right and things like that. So what we tend to do is I tend to fly there like 3 days before a competition starts, and I go to the shop and I'll buy myself a rice cooker and a George Foreman, and I'll just eat in the hotel, just to kind of take away any of the risk of like food poisoning or anything not agreeing with me. So it just takes like a lot of finite kind of details and planning and stuff to be able to do that. And it's something that I've learned along the way. Every time I compete abroad, I learn something new. I'm like, oh, I'll bring that next time. And I've got like a list of things saved in my phone for like taking to compete in like abroad or compete in the UK, just so I've got that handy so I don't forget anything. So it's
Anything
good.
people wouldn't expect?
God. Well, if you were to compete in Spain, I'd never go there without mosquito repellent. I can't even say it, repellent again, because that killed me out one time. Like we went to Barcelona and I got bitten about 50 times by mosquitoes, and by the time the competition came, I had no energy left. So that's
I had
something that
that
I
in
always bring
Morocco.
with me.
Yeah, that stuff's essential, because when they go for you, they really, they call all their mates, don't they?
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. It was awful.
Yeah.
What you
And
need is to take some Bovril. I've heard that works. Apparently, they don't like the taste of that.
And Marmite as well, isn't it?
Something like that, yeah. That might. That's not a recommendation, by the way. I just heard that somewhere.
You just smother it all over you, don't you? You just pick up a bovril on your face, on your arms.
Anyway, so Becca, going back to like actually training, because I get the impression that we've spoke to people on here before who maybe they were like Olympic skiers or something like that, or other sports people who maybe get involved in a sport very young, and then they kind of get a sense of, wow, I'm good at this, and the parents kind of push them into coaching, and they just kind of gradually move up levels of kind of like an established sport, something like a rugby or a football or tennis or golf or whatever. But with strength sports, I suppose it's got to be something that you kind of you try and you go in and you gradually gravitate or migrate towards something, and you get pushed in or recommended in a certain direction. And you're only going to start training at a serious level if you've got the potential and the ability and the enthusiasm and the desire to get there. So how did you get involved in fitness or strength, I suppose, as a kind of, because it's something that's obviously within the male kind of side of things is quite well established, but the female side, especially even just 8 years ago, 9 years ago, whenever you sort of started, it probably wasn't as popular as it is now, was it?
No, definitely not. So I've had a bit of a mixed kind of sports background. When I was in school, I was national champion shot putter. And I also did the 200-meter sprints in like kind of athletic days and stuff, when like the schools in the nations would kind of compete against each other. So they were kind of like my little fortes in school, and for about 3 years then I didn't really do anything until I went to university, and that's when I started playing rugby. I was just walking through the freshers fair, and I think some of the rugby girls looked at me and thought, "Oh, she looks big. Like, we'll get her involved." And I really enjoyed playing rugby. I captained the university team in my second year of uni, and then I also played for Waterloo Ladies, who were a Premiership level team as well. So I was playing for two teams, and that kind of stopped when I had a massive back injury. I was tackled by two girls. I slipped two discs, did nerve damage, ligament damage, and I couldn't walk for 6 months. Um, so that kind of stopped that in its tracks, and then I didn't really do any sport for around 18 months or so. And then I met my partner Paul on Plenty of Fish, and he was very much into strongman. He was like an encyclopedia for it. He was very, very passionate about it, and very passionate about the sport of grip. And he just kind of agreed to kind of train me. And then he said that I was quite strong. So I met him in the May of 2016. And then by September of that year, I was UK's strongest woman. So it all happened pretty quickly. But yeah, it was definitely really fun.
So do you think that you've obviously got a natural propensity or a natural leaning or talent for strength and grip, because you obviously you're playing you're kind of your size anyway, but you were playing rugby, which is obviously a hugely physical sport, and you've got to be tough and and strong to do that. And then with, I think you said, so May to September, you probably had what, like 4 or 5 months of specific training to then go into the UKs, and then you won the UK Strongest Woman. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what, I mean, had you done any strength training at university with, to subsidize the rugby training and things? Were you already involved in some degree of strength training through uni and things?
Yeah, so we, as part of the Waterloo Ladies kind of regime that they had as part of, so we would train twice a week, and then on a Saturday he'd arrange a strength and conditioning coach to kind of just do some sessions with us. So it wasn't really strongman kind of sessions, it was more kind of the basic movements and deadlift, squat, bench, and like some kind of just general conditioning work just to kind of get us fit for the pitch. So I did kind of know a little bit about stuff in the gym, but it wasn't anything close to what strongman is.
Yeah.
Has it made you think what is strength? I mean, do you have I mean, given that your strength came quite naturally to you, I'm not saying it came easily because it's hard work, isn't it? But given that it came naturally, do you have any insight into what makes you strong and perhaps someone else not? Do you think what do you think is different about the way you do things?
I've just got a lot of discipline, and I think that's very, very important when strength training. A lot of people, when kind of things get hard or the life gets hard, the gym is one of the first things to go. But for me, the gym has always been a constant. It's always been something where in my head, that's not something that I can skip. Obviously, things come up in life and I have to rearrange sessions, but I've not missed a single session in 7 years.
Why is that?
just because I've got a determination to just want to achieve everything that I put my mind to. And the next thing that I've put my mind to is to be regarded as the strongest woman to have ever lived. So that's my goal, and I'm not going to stop until I kind of achieve it. And I've always had that mindset, even from a young age, even when it's not from sports, because I grew up in care and I wasn't really expected to achieve anything. And that nobody that in the area had gone to university in the district, and my first goal was to break that barrier down and go and get myself into university. So I've always had like a weird kind of determination to kind of persevere and achieve what I want to achieve, and it's always kind of happened because I've worked hard for it, and I've not kind of missed anything, or do you know what I mean? I've always kind of made sure that I put the work in to achieve my goals.
So I think, like you mentioned there, you haven't missed a session in 7 years, and you have to move them around slightly. And I know that we obviously haven't mentioned, but Paul, obviously, who got you involved in Strongman and introduced you to it and was your coach, very sadly passed away, didn't he? In was it Christmas last year, or around Christmas time?
Yeah, it was the 4th of December that he passed away.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a very tough time in my life because he'd changed everything for me. He'd changed my life around completely, because when I met him, I was in a very dark place. So he really did kind of give me something to live for, and gave me a new goal, and that changed my life completely.
And I think I saw you said that even after that happened, which was you then almost doubled down on your commitment to do this in his kind of honor and memory, and you still haven't missed any sessions. You're training really diligently towards your goals now. So what is the next kind of big thing on the horizon? So for you, first of all, I suppose that goal that you said is really fantastic, is you want to be the strongest woman to have ever lived. What does that mean in terms of what would you have to do to be recognized as that, or to be seen as that? Is it to become like the GOAT of female strong of strong women? What kind of criteria would you have to meet to do that?
Well, in my opinion, it'd just be to have won every single major competition in the sport, and to have won the most World's Strongest Woman titles that's ever been won. Currently it's 3 by Donna Moore, so my aim in my lifespan is to win 5 World's Strongest Woman titles. I'm still pretty young. I'm not even 30 yet, and a lot of the other top strong women are in their mid to late 30s, even 40s. So I've got a long time left in the sport, and I feel like I've not even peaked yet. I'm still getting stronger and better. So it's an exciting time, and it's a goal that I definitely think that I'm going to be able to achieve. The only kind of major competition that I've not won yet is the Arnold's in Ohio in America. And I had my first shot at it this year, came in as an alternate, and I came second. So hopefully next year that Arnold Pro title will be mine, and then hopefully another few World's Strongest Woman titles.
Wow.
I love that you said, oh, all I've got to do, I've just got to win this and this and this and this. That's all you got to do. That's simple as that, isn't it? But I've got a quick question, and it's based around. So I've been thinking a lot about kind of like the vision that people have of these things, and people have goals at different levels, right? Say, so like for me, I've got a strength goal at the minute. It's nowhere near becoming the strongest man in the world, but it's a goal, right? And that's my vision, and I know what I have to do each day to become that person and who does that. But for you, this is like, I want to be the strongest woman who ever lived. So how do you manage that in your head? Like, what does it make you think? What does it make you do? Do you visualize it every day? Do you, what kind of process do you go through every single day to say, right, this is going to get me there? Or do you just turn up and lift stuff, if you know what I mean?
So basically, like every kind of big goal always has smaller goals, like building up to it. So to become the strongest woman that's ever lived, that's my big major goal. But to get there, I've got several smaller goals that I need to achieve, and I just kind of focus on ticking that one goal off at a time. So the next competition now. That's the next goal, and that's the only thing that I'll be focusing on over the next kind of month or so. And then that goal is gone, and then my next little goal is going to be my next competition. So just kind of break it up, because otherwise it kind of gets too overwhelming and things like that. So I do break my goals up into little smaller achievable goals, and then I'll kind of build up to hopefully becoming that bigger goal in a few years' time.
And I
You,
suppose, sorry, go on, Paul.
you mentioned your coach had a real profound effect on you. So he must have been able to translate some of this and inspire you. I mean, what is it that, I mean, we're all coaches here. I mean, we work with our clients all the time to try and inspire them to change and to get them to make decisions that are going to have profound effects on them. And what was he doing that made his approach so unique for you and inspiring?
It's hard. So much belief in me. I couldn't even put it into words. Even within 3 to 4 weeks of meeting him, he told me that he'd make me the world's strongest woman within 5 years. Like, he saw the potential in me before anyone else did. And there was a period, kind of 2018 time, where he was actually laughed at and mocked on the internet for his belief in me. Because he was saying this, he was saying Rebecca will be the world's strongest woman, like there's no doubt, and things like that. And a lot of people kind of didn't believe it, didn't believe in his kind of the way that he thought. But his belief right from the start was that I could be great, and that was just something that kind of, I didn't really believe it at first, but as I started winning more and more competitions, I did believe in it. I did believe in, like, the way that he thought, his methodologies and things like that. They were just really great. They really suited me, and it really helped that I was with him all the time as well, which is something that you don't really get with normal coaches, because he was my partner too, so it was more 24/7. I had that belief 24 hours a day. From the moment I woke up in the morning to the moment I fell asleep at night, he was there and he believed in me. There was not one time where his belief didn't waver. So I suppose that's maybe slightly different to what normal coaches are, because there's only a certain amount of time that you get to spend with all your clients and things like that. But yeah, it was basically just 24/7.
Mm. And I suppose, like you said, the big goal, then you break it down, and then the word you use, discipline, I suppose, because in some regards, in terms of sport, the actual outcome is very hard to guarantee, isn't it? Because it depends who turns up on the day. It depends what happens. Anything can happen. An injury can happen. But you have to break it down to kind of, like you say, like weekly, you've got your training for the week, and you know what your week looks like, and you know what your nutrition looks like, and your recovery and your physio and all the rest of it. And then daily, even you break it down, I suppose, into daily, like if you're training, and when you mentioned when you work from home. I think it was before we press record, but when you work from home, you know, you've got the kitchen there, you can prep your food, you're constantly looking at nutrition, you can train for your 3 or 4 hours at a time. So I suppose for most people, they can get distracted, or what would the word, kind of over enamored with the big end goal, when really the only thing that you have control of, it's like it's a book, isn't it, The Power of Now, you know, Eckhart Tolle. It's kind of what you do that day is what you have immediate control of. So I think having that discipline is the most important thing, that you wake up in the morning, you know what you're doing, you know what you're eating, you know how you're recovering. In terms of your, I know it's, you know, food and nutrition and things, if you're putting in 3-4 hour training sessions 4 or 5 days a week, what does your sort of day of eating look like? I mean, it's another thing for strong woman and strong man. I think people probably don't realize how important the nutrition element is as well.
Yeah, so basically my nutrition, it comes in like phases. So it depends whether I'm in an off season, it depends what competition I'm prepping for as well. If it's quite, I wouldn't say low level, but in the grand scheme of things, if it's not a major competition, I wouldn't have really classed UK Strongest Woman as like a major competition for me. Like, my 2 or 3 major competitions of the year is probably the Arnold's in America, Europe's Strongest Woman, and World's Strongest Woman. So for those 3 competitions, I'll probably be on around 6,000 calories a day. So that's what I'm currently on now, because I've got Europe's Strongest Woman in a month's time. So I'll usually eat around 7 to 8 times a day. My first meal of the day will normally be eggs, egg whites, chicken sausages, and toast. I then go on to about an hour later, I'll have a protein shake with honey, a banana, milk, oats. What else do I have in it? Oh, and flaxseed. And then usually I'll have about 2 to 3 meals of like chicken and rice and veg, or chicken pasta and veg, or chicken potato veg, whatever carb source I want really. And then if I'm training, I'll have bagels and jam just before training. I'll have an isotonic drink as an intra-workout. And then before bed, I'll always have granola with protein yogurt and like some berries and stuff just for antioxidants before bed. And having like a kind of milk or kind of yogurty product before bed, apparently that really helps kind of build protein as you're sleeping.
Yeah, that's the slower release, isn't it? The slow release
Yeah.
protein that you kind of have before bed to filter into the system as you sleep. Wow, that's incredible. And in terms, you mentioned as well that at your home there, you've got like I think you said like a sauna and an ice tub and things that you utilize as well. Is that right?
Yeah, I've got a jacuzzi and a homemade ice tub, which is basically a rainwater collection tank. It cost me about £65 on eBay, but do you know what? It does the job.
That puts James into shame, because he spent way more than 65 quid on the ice tub he's got outside.
Yeah, do me. But I suppose because when I was trying to, I'll give Alex a little shout out, who's doing her novice competition. I mean, there's two ladies at the gym now who are there's a lady called Suze Hawkins, who is I think she's won a few competitions, and that she's like a lighter weight kind of strong woman, you know, kind of around the 70 kilo mark. And she's competing again soon. And then Alex she's tall. She's not as tall. Because how tall are you, Becca? Are you like 6'3" or something?
Technically, I'm 6'3.5".
Yeah.
So people always just say that I'm 6'4" when I'm like being announced anywhere.
Okay. Yeah, I think she's maybe 6'2". But she's a tall, big, strong lady. And I was talking to her yesterday, and I said that we had you on today. And because she, like I say, she's got her first novice comp in August, Essex Strongest Woman, local novice one, you know. And I said, because I was really surprised. I mean, it's difficult to, I mean, I'm 6 foot tall. And when I kind of met yourself, and I met Lucy Underdown as well at the UK's, you're big, tall, strong women, aren't you? You know, and I felt like a child, you know, next to you guys. And then I had my little daughter who was 6, and she had a picture with you, which was lovely. And you know, and I kind of thought, because when I'd said to her, I said, "Oh, do you want to get a picture with Becca?" And she kind of like went, "No." And I think she's so tall, she's so small. Sorry, it must be quite intimidating, you know, as a little kid, seeing people so big. But I was just going to ask on a technical level. So your ice bath, I mean, if it's a water collection thing, it's got to be fairly big for you to be able to get in and enjoy. Do you go right up to the neck and things in there?
Yeah. So I put a little step stool in it, and like I'm sat in it, and it goes right up to my neck, and it's just the right size, to be honest. It's actually perfect. But so like it's something that we've always done. We've always just tried to invest in the sport, and just as cheaply and effectively as possible. The reason that we kind of invested in the hot and colds at home is because I was getting cryotherapy twice a week, and it was a 40-minute drive each way. So it was like 4 hours of my time every week just being wasted on going and getting cryotherapy done. And it was like, well, how can we do this more cheaply and more effectively? And bought it, and it's been great. I've got a separate chest freezer full of ice, and I just put a couple of bags in every time I go in, and it does the job.
Because some people
living in the UK, it rains a lot as well. So fortunately, it'll be there's an abundant supply of water there for you as well, isn't there?
Yeah.
Because some people
it was lovely getting in it through the snow.
Yeah, some people just get in the chest freezer, don't they? As well, we've had guests on before who've got, like, especially out in America, like who was it? Brad Kearns we had on, I think, has got like a chest freezer out. He's out in California or something, you know, but he's got a chest freezer out on his decking that he just opens up and gets in every day. and cracks the ice. Sorry, Paul, you want to say something? You got your mic to your
Yeah, no, I was just thinking, like, all these strong women events, they're really growing, aren't they? Because I remember, we all remember the strongman events on TV around Christmas about 20, 30 years ago, and they're always big. They're big television events, but they're only once a year. But now you've got a lot of the competitors who have their YouTube channels. Those YouTube channels get millions of views, and they're really growing. Obviously the men's strongman events now are huge, and it is evident that the women's is growing as well. So, I mean, what are you finding is the reception that you're getting to your sport when you talk to people in not only in your community, but you're just kind of hanging out with people and you say, I do strength training. I'm not just okay. I'm like properly strong. I mean, what are people's opinions? Do you get negative feedback? Do you get positive? I mean, how's it work for you?
Well, to be honest, recently I've not really had any negative feedback for a long time that I can remember. A lot of people are just generally very impressed and that they don't really believe it. I remember I did an appearance at a Strength Fest kind of festival a few weeks ago, and afterwards, me and my friends, we went and we sat at McDonald's, and there was a lady there with her young daughter, and she was just looking at us because we were all big people. And one of my friends kind of got talking to her and told her, oh yeah, she was the world's strongest woman, and she was just amazed. And I think that's generally kind of what you kind of get, is just kind of respect and awe from normal people with what I do. But a lot of people, especially on social media, it's really nice to know that I feel like they tell me on a daily basis. I get messages saying that I'm an inspiration and I'm inspiring them to get to the gym and to go and be who they want to be and do what they want to do. And I think that's the kind of the reception that I love to receive, is just knowing that because of me, there's women out there that are accepting their body types, that are not afraid to go to the gym and not afraid to go and do what they want to do in life, and feel like they can achieve it because I'm achieving what I want to achieve, and even in the hardest of circumstances. And that's something that I hold like close to my heart, and something that I love about being part of the sport as well.
Yeah, because I'm up at the Albert Hall this weekend for the Strongman Classic, up in London, and I think that when people come and watch, I was talking to a client earlier today actually, and he's 72 and he's just taken up tennis, and he's going to he's just taken up playing tennis at 72, and he's at Wimbledon, going to watch Wimbledon tomorrow. And he said he's been watching a bit on TV, and he said when you actually play a sport yourself and then you watch it, you have so much more appreciation for the sport, and also you understand about the game, and you kind of have a different level of appreciation when you try it yourself. And I think that people who actually go to the gym or lift weights themselves, because it's very easy to sort of look at someone lifting like, I don't know, 100 or 150 kilo log, or deadlifting 250 kilos, and if you've not got any experience of doing some of these things yourself, the number really doesn't mean anything, does it? You know what I mean? You've got no comprehension of it. Well, that sounds a bit heavy, or that looks heavy. But I think that what's so fantastic is seeing, like, I think it was Glenn Ross at the UK's when you were doing the deadlifts, and I think it was just you and Lucy still doing them. And then he kind of said there was a little break, and he sort of said, how many men in the audience can lift this much weight? And like, because I mean, you literally are. And this is the thing, it's not so. Strongwoman is not like, oh, these women are strong for women. It's like, you're literally like, if the strong men are like the top 0.01% or something of the population, or even smaller than that, the weights that you lift, I mean, no men that I know, outside of professional strongmen, can lift the kind of weights that you're lifting. So, I mean, what's the cap is there a cap in your mind as to what you can lift? Because you're kind of you're pushing the barriers now, aren't you, of what's possible and what's capable for people to lift. You're doing things that no one's ever done before. Because you've got quite a few world records, haven't you, in various strength sports and grip sports and things like that. Is there any cap that you put on yourself, or or do you just think for the next 10 years you can keep getting stronger and you don't really know where you're going to end up?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of the latter. Like, I'm not sure where I'd end up really. I just love the fact that there's so many strong women around that keep breaking barriers and make other things feel like they're achievable. Because to be honest, a few years ago, I was really struggling with my Atlas stones, and Donna Moore broke the world record at 171 kilos, and Paul turned to me and was like, "Well, she can do it. Why can't you?" And do you know what I mean? And it's like, do you know what? Yeah. And around 2 years after like Donna broke it, I did 180 kilo Atlas stone in training. And it's just about breaking barriers. And if another woman's doing it, it's like, well, why can't I go for that? And one thing that I really want to go for this year, especially, is a 300 kilo deadlift. And I do think that I'm capable of it this year. And it was only because Lucy went and pulled a 300 kilo deadlift. She broke that barrier down, and she just makes it feels like it's more achievable for everyone else, especially at the kind of the top level. It's like, yeah, she's broken that barrier. Yeah, I can do that too. And it's just all about breaking barriers and just focusing on that next goal. I know that Victoria Long is going to be hopefully going for a 700-pound deadlift next month. I know this month now, actually. So that's going to be another barrier that will be broken by women, and just keep seeing where it ends up. And I suppose it's similar to the way that Eddie Hall broke the 500 kilos. It was something that people thought, oh, that's unheard of. And he went and he did it. And now there's several people that are going to hopefully be going for the 505 in September at the Giants Live. It's just great that there's so many people now in the world that are at that level, and we're all kind of pushing each other now to kind of keep improving.
So what's your
to put this in
sorry, go on, Pete.
I was going to say, to put this in perspective, it was on Richard Osman's House of Games, right? Which is I don't know if you've seen that show, right? But they just ask random questions that have got a number as the answer, and it could be anything, right? And they were like, "What's the world record deadlift?" And the contestants are kind of people off the telly and stuff, and they were coming up with like 220 kilos and just random numbers. And Gareth Thomas was on it, so when they were saying out the numbers, he goes, "Well, I'll go and do that for you now." He goes, "I'll do that." You know what I mean? Because it was really interesting, because people were like, "That is really heavy," and it's like, yeah, and you're less than half of what Eddie Hall's record is, and you're way below what the women's record now is. So it's just interesting to see what people think is actually heavy, and then what is really, really heavy. It's amazing.
So what's your personal record at the moment? Is it 285 or?
Yeah, I've lifted 285 kilo in training. Technically, I've done 155 kilo hand farmers walks without straps, and I ran with them for 15 meters. So combined, that would be 310 kilos that I've kind of lifted off the floor and moved with. But yeah, 300 kilos definitely the deadlift that I really want this year at some point.
Yeah, and where's you said you've got the European or the Europe Strongest Woman in about a month's time. Where is that one held?
That's in an exhibition in London. So it's going to be from the 11th to the 13th of August. And for the life of me, I can't remember what the exhibition's called.
I think it's is it at Excel at Docklands?
I think so.
Yeah,
that rings a bell. I'm not a very organized person. I've literally got like a gym mother, I've got a competition mother, and everyone kind of looks after me because I'm the least organized person in my life.
No, that's great, because I saw that actually, because that's my birthday's on the 13th, and I saw that as over a weekend, isn't it? So yeah, it is part of another kind of a big fitness exhibition type thing, isn't it? And that's part of it. I'll have to have a look at that, because that's not far from me. Cool.
Can I ask a geeky question? So if you're going to increase your deadlift and you're trying to take yourself beyond what you've already done, what do you think is going to do that? Is it the programming? Is there a particular way of programming? Is there something unique about just doing more deadlifts to get better at the deadlifts, or is it you've got to increase your own body weight? I mean, what is it you think takes someone from a good deadlift or an excellent deadlift to a world-class, record-breaking deadlift?
Well, to be honest, the strongest deadlift that I kind of the strongest that I ever felt at deadlifting was at World's Strongest Woman last year. And at that point, I had a scalene tear, so I torn the muscle down my neck. And the thing that I found massively helped my deadlifts were at that time good mornings and belt squats. And because I couldn't actually lift anything off the floor because of like my neck kind of being torn, literally for the whole prep, I was doing good mornings and belt squats. And I went into World's Strongest Woman and I lifted 220 kilo axle, I think 10 times in 40 seconds. And that was like the strongest really for reps anyway that my deadlift's ever been. One thing that I struggled with massively, where I fail a deadlift, it's just below the knee. So really focusing on RDLs massively kind of builds my deadlift up. But it's a case of just getting some time together where I can really focus on deadlift as a kind of like a singular kind of lift, because I'm always in competition prep at the minute.
Are they very fatiguing when you put a lot of focus on them? Or do you find you recover from them well when you're doing a lot of volume?
Yeah, so I recover from volume really well. I feel like I've got really good genetics in that sense. My dad was a marathon runner, and I really kind of struggle. Well, I don't struggle with getting any lactic acid buildup. So, volume work I do really well with. It's a lot more kind of the heavier work I struggle a bit more to recover from. But then that's why I get my daily ice baths and I get my weekly physio and things like that, and that really helps with my recovery between sessions. But yeah, so
because I saw a video of you the other day. It might have only been yesterday or the day before, where you were doing like speed reps of the floor to overhead with a log, I think. And I think it was like 90 or 92 and a half, or so. It was over 90 kilos, I think, the log. And it was moving so fast, and I think because I was training with Alex the other day, and her weight on her log for the novice is like 45 kilos, So we're doing that. And she said, oh, I saw Becca doing the other day 90 or 92 and a half kilos. And you were moving it faster than she was moving like 40 kilos. You know what I mean? It was incredible. So I suppose, yeah, what's the kind of breakdown in your week in terms of, and again, it's a bit specific question, but in terms of event training versus sort of general strength training, the kind of training that regular people will do at the gym, things like your squats and your deadlifts and your overhead press and your bench and maybe things like that, opposed to specific event kind of conditioning and training.
So I'll basically, in my off season, that's when I'll do a lot more of the typical normal gym goer kind of strength training. But when I'm kind of prepping for a competition, I tend to do at least one or two events every session. So for example, yesterday I did some sandbag runs because I've got sandbag at Europe's Strongest Woman. And I also did some yoke runs because again, that's another event at Europe's Strongest Woman. But then that was supplemented with some sumo deadlifts, some strict press and some hip thrusts. So I kind of like, it's a mixture. So I'll mix some events in every single session along with just some kind of accessory work that kind of helps my other events really.
And do you enjoy doing the event sort of prep? Because I suppose the strongman training's the sort of, I suppose it's maybe not fun stuff for you because it's the kind of, it is your training, it is what you do. But I presume that the things like the log and maybe like the heavy giant dumbbells and Atlas stones and things like that, are they more fun for you? Do you enjoy doing that kind of training more, or do you see it all that you're just disciplined, whatever the program calls for, you do it, and you don't have any sort of favorites, as it were?
I do love events training. It just takes a long time, especially when you've got a lot of plates and stuff to put away, or you've got to try and get all the tacky off your hands and stuff. That's the one thing I hate training stones because I'm very like OCD about the tacky. I hate it. I'd much rather train it tackless than and have all that gloop all over my hands and stuck to my hands for about 3 weeks after every session, apparently.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I really do because I find it just great because every kind of 6 to 8 weeks you've got a completely different program. You can train in completely different events, and it's just refreshing. I could never be a power lifter with just a squat, bench, deadlift that I'd focus on all year round, because I wouldn't find it interesting enough. I love the fact that kind of one prep I could be practicing to pull a truck, and the next prep I could be practicing to lift a car, or do you know what I mean? It's just completely different, and that's what I really find like kind of rewarding. Really, is just going in and having different stuff every kind of 6 to 8 weeks.
I've got a quick question, but before that, if you'd have told me like 20 years ago, I'd be having a chat with someone just going, oh yeah, well, one day I've got a truck and then another day I've got to lift a car and all that. It's brilliant. And then also I've never had the problem of how many plates you have to put away. But anyway, only when I'm emptying the dishwasher. I've got a couple of questions all around the same thing. So what's your favorite event? This might be like trying to choose your favorite kid or something, I don't know, but what's your favorite event? What's the one you need to work on the most? And also, is it a surprise? Because obviously, you know, if you've watched it in the past before you got into Strongwoman, if you've watched it in the past, you think like, oh, that would be my favorite event, but it's actually turned out to be something else.
God, I think my favorite event is like any kind of moving events. So like sandbag runs and farmers and yoke and things like that. And it did come as a surprise to me that that would be my favorite event now, because when I first started the sport, I was massively overweight, in the kind of wrong way. I was about 8 stone heavier than I am now, and I hated those kind of events. But they're my favourite events to do now. I love picking up heavy stuff and just running around with it. I'd say my least favourite event is probably just training Atlas stones. I love doing them in a competition, but I hate to train them. And the one that I think really needs the most work is my overhead. And that's not to say that I'm rubbish at overhead. I feel like I am pretty good at it, but that's the one thing that drops me down slightly in points in a competition, especially if it's like for a max kind of thing. And it's partly because of my height and my levers and things like that. I'm 6'4" compared to Andrea Thompson and Annabelle Chapman, who are very, very high log pressers, and they're 5'7". So they've got a lot less kind of range of motion to kind of press from than I do. So it does have to kind of get worked on a lot, and press around 3 times a week now, just to kind of really build that up. But yeah, so because I really focus on being kind of well-rounded, and after every competition, I analyze the events that I did well at, the events that I could do better at, and it always tends to be the overhead that I kind of dip slightly down. So it's one thing that I do really try and work on, is just not losing points in the overhead events.
I think, Becca, as we start to kind of wrap up now, I was going to ask a kind of a more general point, I suppose, that is obviously applicable to you and the level of sport that you're at and the level of training that you're at, but also maybe applicable to other people who are maybe just getting started in training or are thinking about getting started in training. And that's kind of what does your training and Strongwoman and being strong and getting stronger kind of do for you in your life? That's, you know, how does it show up in your life and help you in other ways that's not related to just, you know, training and picking up heavy things? I mean, do you find that being strong and having the discipline to train the way you do has a lot of carryover to the way that you live your life in other areas as well?
Yeah, 100%. I firmly believe that if the gym wasn't in my life, then I wouldn't be here either. When I first started the sport, I was self-conscious. I hated the way that I looked. I'd wear black every time I got baggy hoodies, baggy tracksuit bottoms, and I just had no confidence at all. There'd be no way that I'd be doing podcasts right now. There'd be no way that I'd have a social media account. There'd be no way that I'd be putting myself out for competitions and things like that. And it's just given me the confidence to go out and be who I want to be. And my saying that I kind of live by now is to take up space and know your worth. And it's something that I live by every single day. And it's something that's come to me just because of the whole strength training. And even the day after Paul died, I was in the gym, and that was just literally because I love going to the gym. It helps my mental health. It helps me sleep at night. On nights that I go to the gym, I sleep a lot better. And I've got so many friends, and it's like one big family. And that's what I really love about it. Like, I don't just go to the gym to train, I'll go to the gym to socialize as well. The other day, I didn't have a training session. I just went down to the gym for a brew, and I took a cake over, and we just all spent a couple of hours just having a chat and a catch up kind of thing. And it's amazing being part of the community as well. And everyone's just there supporting each other and wants the best for you. And it's been like that in every single gym really that I've been to. That's a kind of strongman and strength and conditioning gym. So yeah, like lifting has just changed my life massively.
I mean, I find that certainly the people everyone that I've come into contact with through working in gyms and running gyms and things, but as well through, just going and watching sort of strongman events and speaking to people on the podcast, it does really seem to be an inclusive, welcoming, sort of judgment-free, encouraging kind of community, and Pete and I are up in or down in Somerset, aren't we, at the end of August? Chard in Somerset for the Britain's strongest disabled man and disabled there's women, disabled strong woman as well, isn't it, in Chard in August? And we're helping out down there. And it just seems to be a fantastic community. And I've got a title for the podcast now: Take Up Space and Know Your Worth. So yeah, that's absolutely that's brilliant. That's fantastic. As we wrap up, Pete, have you got anything you'd like to ask or say as we in kind of conclusion as we start to wrap up?
Not really. I just think I just love talking to people like Rebecca, because you can say to the blue in the face that, these things are good for you. And what you've just said there, the very end about you wouldn't have a social media account, you wouldn't be doing podcasts, you know what I mean? And those are kind of like smallish things when you think about it, because you're up in front of the world lifting, lifting stuff. So I think that's amazing. So when someone like you says that really makes, in my head, that makes it like, this works. This is good for you doing this stuff. And it doesn't even have to be strength training. It's just looking after yourself, isn't it? Looking after your mental health, looking after your physical health. And
it's just going to the gym and finding a community of people and friends. Like, you don't have to be competing professionally. You don't have to be competing at all. It's just going to the gym, finding a group of people that you kind of get on with. And every kind of gym that I've been to, I've always had like great people that you can just go and sit and have a laugh with. So it's not even like to compete. It's just to go, and even if you kind of go and do a bit of cardio or some general kind of training, it's just great to kind of go and be involved and just socialize as well.
No, it's fantastic. Paul, for yourself?
When I opened my gym, I bought some wooden sticks, the old wooden dowels, and they all had stickers on them, and they was covered in stickers and glue, right? And a solution I had to get rid of all the glue was WD-40. Now, I don't know if you want to spray WD-40 all over your arms, but it got rid of all the glue.
I already do. WD-40 and baby oil.
All right, okay, yeah.
There you go.
There we go. Well, I don't know how to help you.
I tried to reseal the shower once, and when you see people put the stuff on and then they go like that with a finger, and I did that, it just all came off, and I had it all over my hand, and I was like, "That's pretty much." So I know your pain.
Do me. Becca, thank you so much for joining us. If people want to follow you, follow your journey, want to find out more about you, and I know you said that you may in the near future be looking to take on a small number of clients or online clients and things like that. What's the best way for people to get in touch? I mean, what's your preferred Instagram, Facebook? What do you do most of?
Instagram mainly, so that's Becca Roberts Strongwoman. And I do have a YouTube channel that I am trying to be good enough to film videos for, but tends to kind of get lacking, and that's Becca Roberts Strongwoman as well. I'm hoping to kind of do some more vlogs and stuff leading up to competitions. I'll probably vlog Europe's Strongest Woman on there as well.
Excellent. And and it's the 11th to the 13th of August in London as part of this other event festival, which I'll have to have a look at and see when I'm sure it's XL. So I think I did see it's XL Docklands, which isn't too far away. So no, that's fantastic. So thank you so much for joining us. And yeah, and obviously best of luck with Europe's in about a month's time. And look forward to following you on your quest to become the strongest woman to have ever lived. And then we can say we spoke to you. That'd be great. Brilliant. So thank you so much, guys, for listening. Please do like, share, subscribe, leave a review if you're listening or watching on a platform that allows you to do so. Please do give us a subscribe on YouTube, give us a follow on Instagram. And if you want to join the Facebook group, just go into groups, search Health Oddity, and one of us will let you in. We will be back next week with episode 153 with Dan John, all the way from Utah in the States. Dan will be joining us again next week. So finally, thank you, Becca. It was an absolute pleasure. And thank you so much for taking time out of your day. So I know you are so busy with work and training and everything else you have to do. So thank you for taking time with us today.
Oh, you're more than welcome. I've got a physio appointment in half an hour, so that'll be fun.
Brilliant. Thank you, guys. We'll see you next week for episode 153. Bye-bye.